Claire had never felt this kind of freedom before. As the bus pulled away and the sound of traffic faded into background, she stood alone on the sidewalk, staring up at the faded brick building that would be her new home. The apartment complex looked tired, its windows clouded, its facade chipped with time. Still, to Claire, it was a castle, the first place she could call her own. The key turned with difficulty in the lock. Inside, the apartment smelled faintly of mildew and cleaning solution. Boxes were stacked against the walls, labeled in rush black marker. Books, kitchen, winter clothes. Her bedroom was small, but had a large window that faced a crumbling courtyard. The bathroom, however, immediately gave her pause. The mirror was large, old and slightly warped, the kind that seemed to breathe when the light shifted. A note was taped to the bottom edge of the mirror, yellowed with age. Claire squinted to read the words scribbled in red ink. Don't trust her. A chill crawled up her spine. She pulled the note off and turned it over. Nothing on the back. No name, no date. She shrugged, forcing a laugh. Probably just a prank left behind by the previous tenant. She crumpled it and tossed it into the trash. Hours passed as she unpacked. Late in the afternoon, the sound of a key twisting in the front door jolted her. Claire turned just in time to see a tall girl with sleek dark hair, striking gray eyes, and porcelain skin step inside. "Hey, you must be Claire," the girl said, offering a warm smile. "I'm Lena, your roommate. Sorry I wasn't here earlier. The lease is weird about move-in dates." Claire smiled, relieved. Lena's voice was soft, reassuring. Everything about her was polished and poised, maybe too much so. That night, Claire lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The old pipes creaked and whispered. She told herself it was just the building settling. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her. Just before she drifted off, she remembered the note. The ink had looked fresh, not decades old. The next morning, she entered the bathroom, still half asleep. Her eyes drifted to the mirror. There was again the same note, same red ink, same words. Don't trust her. Claire's hand trembled as she touched the glass. Her reflection didn't tremble back. Claire stared at the note, her breath catching in her throat. She had thrown it away. She remembered doing it vividly. Yet here it was again, neatly pressed against the mirror, like it had never left. She peeled it off slowly, fingers shaking, and crumpled it tighter this time, burying it deep inside the trash. When she turned back to the mirror, her own face stared back with a little too much intensity, as if her reflection knew something she didn't. Down the hall, she heard the gentle hum of someone singing. Claire followed the sound into the kitchen. Lena stood by the stove, flipping pancakes in a loose t-shirt and pajama shorts, hair pulled up into a lazy bun. She looked perfect, too perfect, like a stock photo version of a roommate. Morning. Lena said cheerfully, not missing a beat, "I made coffee." Claire smiled politely. "Thanks. Weird question. Do you know if the last tenant left anything behind? Like maybe a note in the bathroom?" Lena turned slightly, flipping a pancake without looking at it. No, I don't think so." "Why?" Claire paused. "Nothing. Just something weird on the mirror." Lena didn't respond right away. The room felt suddenly colder, as if the window had been opened, but it hadn't. Then she turned, smiling again, her gray eyes locked on Claire's. Old buildings of character, huh? That afternoon, Claire left to attend her orientation at the university. When she returned hours later, the apartment was quiet. Lena's door was closed. Claire tiptoed into the bathroom and for a moment just stared at the mirror. No note, just her face, just her breath fogging the glass. But something was different. She leaned in. Her reflection didn't quite match. It was subtle. The tilt of the head, the timing of the blinking. She stepped back quickly and turned off the light. That night, Claire lay in bed trying to convince herself she was imagining things. She was tired, stressed, maybe even homesick. Around 2 a.m., she woke to the sound of whispering, faint, indistinct, like a voice traveling through a closed vent. She sat up, heart pounding, and listened. It was coming from the bathroom. Claire stepped out into the hallway. every floorboard groaning under her weight. The bathroom door stood half open. A thin sliver of light spilled out onto the floor. She approached slowly and pushed the door open. Empty. She looked at the mirror. No note, no voice, just her reflection. And then she heard it, a soft, almost playful whisper right next to her ear. "She's watching you." Claire spun around. No one was there. She backed out of the bathroom, heart racing, and nearly ran into Lena standing behind her. "Whoa," Lena said, laughing gently. "You okay? You look like you saw a ghost." Claire managed a shaky smile. "Just bathroom stuff. Late-night paranoia." Lena smiled and faltered, but her voice dropped slightly. "This building plays tricks. Don't let it get to you." Claire nodded and stepped around her, hurrying back to her room. As she closed the door behind her, she realized something chilling. Lena had no reason to know she was in the bathroom. She hadn't made a sound. And yet she was already there, watching. The next few days passed in a slow, tense haze. Claire tried to bury herself in classwork, library hours, and long walks through the campus, but the apartment always lingered in the back of her mind. More specifically, the mirror. Every time she passed it, she braced herself. Sometimes it was normal. Other times, her reflection fell off, as if there were a delay, or like it was curious about her. Lena, meanwhile, remained unnervingly perfect. She cooked, cleaned, laughed at the right moments. But Claire noticed how Lena never left during the day, only at night, always after dark, and always returning just before sunrise. Once, Claire pretended to be asleep and waited. At 3:21 a.m., Lena crept in barefoot, her clothes damp as if she'd been standing in fog. Claire shut her eyes tight, pretending not to hear Lena pause by her door and breathe deeply, listening. The tipping point came on a rainy Thursday afternoon. Claire had the apartment to herself for once, or so she thought. She wandered into the storage closet by the kitchen, looking for an extension cord. While moving boxes aside, she found a heavy, dust-covered photo album wedged behind an old vacuum. Curious, she brought it to her room and flipped through it. The photos were dated, curled edges, warm tones, some with timestamps from the late 90s. Most showed groups of girls in the apartment, lounging on the couch, laughing in the kitchen, studying by the window. But one photo made Claire's stomach twist. 3 girls smiling at a table, and one of them was Lena. Same face, same eyes, same perfect smile, except the date, printed on the corner, was 1998. Claire stared at it, her pulse quickening. It wasn't possible. Lena looked identical. No aging, no difference in posture or expression. Just frozen, like someone cut and pasted her into time. That evening, Claire decided to confront her. She waited until Lena emerged from the bathroom, wrapped in a towel, her hair dripping. "Hey," Claire said, holding up the photo album. "Mind explaining this?" Lena glanced at the photo, then back at Claire. Her expression didn't change, but something in her eyes turned sharp, calculating. "That's not me," Lena said flatly. "Lots of girls look alike." Claire stepped forward, pressing the album to Lena's chest. "You're in 5 different pictures. Same face, same necklace." Lena smiled softly. "Then maybe I'm timeless." Before Claire could respond, Lena stepped past her and vanished into her room, closing the door with unnatural quiet. Later that night, Claire sat in bed with her laptop open, researching the apartment building. The search turned up an old news article. Missing student still unfound after 6 weeks. The name was unfamiliar, but the photo wasn't. It was Lena, or someone who looked exactly like her. Claire heard a sound then, soft, muffled, coming from the bathroom again. She crept toward it, feet bare against the cold floor. The door was slightly ajar. She peeked inside. Lena stood in front of the mirror, whispering, not to herself, to her reflection. Claire watched in horror as Lena's reflection moved its lips slightly out of sync with her own. The real Lena paused, and the reflection kept moving. Claire's breath hitched. She stepped back quickly, knocking into the hallway wall with a loud thud. In an instant, Lena turned toward the noise. Claire stumbled back to her room, slamming the door and locking it. Her heart thundered in her ears. She backed away, nearly tripping over the photo album still lying on the floor. She looked at the photo again and realized something she hadn't noticed before. In the background of every image, faint and small in the reflection of a mirror or a window, there was always a second Lena, watching, always watching. Claire didn't sleep that night. She sat rigid against the headboard, the lights on, the photo album clutched in her lap like a shield. Her eyes burned from hours of scanning every photo, every reflection, searching for details she might have missed. But one thing was clear. The Lena she shared this apartment with wasn't normal. She wasn't human, and she wasn't alone. At dawn, Claire made a decision. She needed answers, and she needed them from the one place that had been speaking to her since the beginning, the mirror. She waited until Lena left, slipping out into the early gray morning as she always did. Once the door closed and silence returned, Claire went straight to the bathroom. She stood before the mirror and stared at her own reflection for a long moment. Her breath fogged the glass, and she wiped it clean with the sleeve of her sweater. "Who are you?" she whispered. "What do you want?" "Nothing." She took a step closer. "I saw her talking to you. Are you her, or something else?" The mirror shimmered slightly, almost imperceptibly. Not a reflection of light, but emotion, like ripples beneath the surface of water. Then a faint image began to appear. It was Claire's face, but distorted. Her eyes were darker, hollowed. Her lips curled into a knowing smirk. Claire stumbled back. The distorted reflection didn't follow her movement. It stood still, watching her from within the glass. "You're not me," Claire whispered. The image tilted its head. A whisper emerged from the mirror, not from the air, but from inside the glass. "She feeds on you. Unbelief, doubt, fear." Claire's skin crawled. Her voice trembled. "Who is she?" She was the first. Now she needs the next. Then the distorted Claire leaned closer to the inside of the mirror. Her voice softened to a hiss. "She wants to become real again. You are the vessel." The image vanished. Claire ran from the bathroom, heart pounding so hard she thought it might break her ribs. She knew now Lena wasn't a person. She was something that existed between reflections, wearing the faces of those who came before. And Claire was being groomed. The apartment began to feel smaller with every passing hour. Claire tried to stay outside as long as possible, but eventually the sun began to set. She wandered through campus until it was nearly dark, dread pooling in her stomach. Eventually, she returned, and the lights inside were already on. Lena was waiting. "Rough day?" she asked, her tone syrupy sweet. Claire didn't answer. She just moved to her room, locking the door behind her. That night, as Claire tried to sleep, something tapped against her bedroom window. She lived on the third floor. She pulled back the curtains slowly and saw nothing. But when she turned back to her bed, Lena was standing at the foot of it. Claire gasped and scrambled backward. "I didn't mean to scare you," Lena said, her voice calm, unreadable. "I just wanted to check on you. You've been acting strange." Claire couldn't breathe. "How did you get in?" "You left the door unlocked," Lena replied, even though Claire was sure she hadn't. Lena stepped closer. "You don't trust me. I can feel it." Claire reached for the lamp, holding it like a weapon. "Stay away from me." Lena smiled, eyes gleaming. "But Claire, don't you see? I'm already inside." And then she was gone. Vanished. No footstep, no door creak. Claire blinked, her hands trembling. She stood, opened the door, and checked the hallway. Empty. She ran to the bathroom mirror and saw her reflection again. Only it wasn't quite right. This time, her mirrored self was smiling, and her lips moved silently, forming words Claire couldn't hear, but somehow understood. "Let me in." Claire backed away, her knees hitting the bathtub. Tears welled in her eyes. She wasn't just being watched. She was being replaced. Claire knew she had no time left. Whatever Lena was, she wasn't just feeding off Claire's fear. She was preparing to step through the mirror and take her place. The thing in the glass had grown bolder, clearer, more alive. And Lena She was slipping. Her facade was cracking. The next morning, Claire skipped her classes and headed straight to the library. She scoured books on folklore, urban legends, and mirror mythology, searching for something, anything, that resembled what she was living. After hours of digging, she found a reference in an old, cracked, leather-bound book, the mirror kind. The page described them as ancient entities, trapped behind reflective surfaces. They imitated the living, seducing their way into the real world by mirroring behavior until belief or terror gave them enough power to cross over. Once they replaced their chosen host, the victim would be pulled behind the glass to rot in silence. Claire slammed the book shut, bile rising in her throat. This wasn't haunting. This was possession. She returned home as the sun was setting. Lena wasn't there. Not yet. That meant she had time. Claire gathered supplies. A hammer, duct tape, black cloth, candles, and salt. Every mirror in the apartment, bathroom, closets, even a small hand mirror in her drawer, she covered or smashed. She taped them down or tossed the shards in a garbage bag. She drew salt circles at each entrance, muttering half-remembered prayers her grandmother used to whisper when Claire was a child. The last mirror was the bathroom one. She stared into it, heart racing. Her distorted twin stared back with a cold, calculating grin. Claire raised a hammer, but before she could swing, the reflection spoke. Break the glass, and she will come through faster. Claire hesitated. Why? Because now she's ready. You've made her strong. Claire dropped the hammer. Her mind reeled. Every fearful glance, every sleepless night, every ounce of doubt, it had all been feeding Lena. She hadn't been hiding from her. She'd been growing her. She needed to trap it, seal it. But how? The candles flickered violently as the front door clicked open. Claire ran to the living room. Lena stood just inside, her expression unreadable. Her gray eyes scanned the apartment slowly, falling on the missing mirrors. The scent of salt hung in the air. Looks like you've been busy, Lena said softly. Claire didn't answer. She backed away slowly toward the bathroom. You don't need to be afraid of me, Claire, Lena continued. You made me stronger. That's what you wanted, right? Someone to keep you safe, to protect you. You let me in. No, Claire said firmly. I never let you in. But you believed in me. That's all I needed. Lena stepped forward. The light shifted. Her features flickered. For just a second, her face blurred, became older, then younger, then something hideous before snapping back into her flawless mask. Claire turned and sprinted to the bathroom. She slammed the door behind her and dropped the salt in a circle around her feet. The mirror rippled violently now, like the surface of a lake in a storm. Tell me what to do, Claire begged, facing the glass. How do I stop her? Her reflection leaned forward. You don't. You switch. What? She wants out. She needs your place. But she can't take it if you take hers first. Claire shook her head. Go inside the mirror? I'll die. You'll live, but only if you're strong enough. The doorknob rattled behind her. Lena was there. Claire, she said gently, open the door. We'll talk, like roommates. The mirror pulsed. Now or never. Claire reached forward and touched the glass. The glass was cold. Colder than ice, colder than logic, colder than fear. As Claire's fingers pressed into the mirror, it gave way like water, thick, resisting, yet somehow pulling her forward, inviting her in. A pressure built in her chest, like her lungs were being squeezed from the inside. The bathroom behind her faded, swallowed by darkness, and in an instant, everything was reversed. She was inside the mirror. Her reflection, now flesh and breath, stood in the real world. The creature that had pretended to be her, worn her face, mimicked her voice, now turned to the door. Claire, came Lena's voice from the hallway. Claire, open up. The mirror Claire, the thing now wearing her skin, responded, perfectly imitating her voice. I'm okay. Just needed a moment. Claire screamed, banged on the glass, but no sound came through. The rules were different here. The air inside the mirror was heavy, stale, and dimly lit by the glow of the real world just beyond the glass. Her limbs moved slowly, like wading through syrup. Around her, the bathroom was reversed, mirrored down to the smallest detail, but warped. The walls bled dark shadows. The corners stretched too far. The reflection of the salt circle was broken, smeared like someone had dragged fingers through it. And she wasn't alone. In the mirror's version of the hallway, a line of figures stood silently, women of all ages and appearances, all with wide, hollow eyes and familiar faces. Claire recognized several from the photos in the album, roommates from decades ago, all of them trapped, all of them taken. They stared at her, unmoving. Claire backed into the sink, her mind spinning. She couldn't stay here. This place wasn't just a trap. It was a prison of identities, echoes of lives drained and discarded. Then something moved behind her, a presence. Cold fingers grazed her shoulder. She spun. Lena was there, but not the Lena she knew. This version was older, decayed. Her face flickered between forms, like a broken film reel. Sometimes Claire's, sometimes another girl's, sometimes just a screaming, eyeless void. "You came willingly," the creature whispered. "That makes you mine." "No," Claire hissed. "You don't get to decide." She grabbed the reflection of the hammer from the counter. It felt real. Heavy. Her grip tightened. The creature lunged. Claire swung. Glass shattered, not around her, but in the real world. A sharp crack echoed through the mirrored realm as a fracture split the bathroom mirror from edge to edge. Light spilled in, and the figures in the hallway recoiled. The crack had weakened the boundary. Claire ran forward, pressing her hand to the fracture, screaming silently. Her other self, the imposter, turned at the sound, now seeing Claire from the other side. Her expression flickered with alarm, rage, then panic. Claire slammed the hammer again. A second crack. The creature screamed, this time from both sides. Claire felt her bones rattle. Then, with one final swing, the mirror broke completely. The mirror exploded outward with a deafening shriek. Not of glass, but of something deeper, older, wounded. Claire tumbled forward, coughing, gasping as air filled her lungs. Real air, sharp, cold, and alive. She was back in the bathroom. Her hands were scraped. Blood dripped from her knuckles where shards had bitten through skin. Around her, broken pieces of the mirror lay scattered across the floor, like a silvery puzzle, glinting with dim light. But she wasn't alone. The Lena thing was still there, hunched over, flickering like a faulty signal. Her form twisted between different versions, unable to hold a single identity. She reached out one last time, eyes black and bottomless. "You were mine," she rasped. Claire staggered backward, kicking salt toward the creature's feet. The grain struck her like sparks. She recoiled violently, hissing like steam against fire. "I was never yours," Claire said, voice shaking but firm. "You wore my face, but I never let you take it." The creature screamed, a high metallic shriek, and fell backward into the shards. Her body fractured like glass, breaking into dozens of reflections, each one silently screaming in its own direction. And then she was gone. Just a pile of broken glass and silence. Claire collapsed onto the tile, her breasts ragged. Every part of her shook. Tears rolled down her face, but she wasn't sure if they were from pain or relief. She lay there for what felt like hours, waiting for the apartment to return to stillness. The air grew warm again. The walls no longer pulsed. The pressure in her chest eased. Later, when she could stand, she swept up the mirror pieces into a heavy black trash bag and carried them outside, far from the building. She dumped them into a dumpster, hands trembling. She returned home just as the first light of morning touched the windows. In the kitchen, she found the old photo album lying closed on the table. She opened it one last time. The faces had changed. The mirror had released them. Each girl now looked peaceful, not smiling, but still, their reflections gone, but their identities returned to rest. Claire gently closed the book. In the bathroom, where the mirror had once hung, she taped a single piece of paper to the wall. For words, never trust a reflection. Then she walked away. She didn't look back. Days passed, But Claire couldn't shake the lingering unease. Though the mirror was gone, a chill clung to the apartment's corners, as if the shadows themselves whispered secrets. She moved cautiously, avoiding reflective surfaces entirely. Windows, phone screens, even polished silverware. One evening, as she packed to move out, Claire found herself staring at the small bathroom window. Moonlight spilled through, casting eerie shapes on the walls. Her eyes caught a flicker, a faint shimmer on the glass. She blinked, and for a fraction of a second, a pale face with hollow eyes appeared, pressing from the other side. Her breath caught. The face vanished. Claire's hands trembled, but she forced herself to look again. The window was clear. No trace remained. But she knew some part of the darkness had stayed behind. It wasn't finished. As she zipped her suitcase shut, a whisper echoed to the apartment. Soft, chilling, yet unmistakably clear. "I'm still here." Claire swallowed hard, stepping away from the window. She glanced back one last time. In the moonlit glass, a pair of cold eyes watched her, waiting,